Hi everyone and welcome back. This is lesson number 43. In this lesson, we are going to be talking about the types of conditionals again. So in some of the previous lessons, we covered the type 0, the type 1, the type 2, and the type 3 conditionals. But in this lesson, we are going to look at the last conditional, which is also known as the mixed conditional in the English language, okay? So this conditional consists of parts of the type 0 through 3 conditionals and is used to emphasize the result of the action in the present moment by using the past tense. Or it is used in such a way that the present day condition emphasizes the result of the action that happened in the past. So I know it sounds a bit confusing, but think about it like this, okay? So if something had happened in the past, but it didn't really happen, then what would be the modern day situation? What would it look like to you? Okay, so what if something happened in the past, but actually it didn't happen? What would it be like today? What would that situation look like? So this is what the mixed conditional addresses, okay? Now, if you look here, we can see that the mixed conditional is made up of parts of the other conditionals. So for example, you can have the third conditional plus the second conditional. Those two go together. Or you can swap it around and you have the second conditional plus the third conditional. Okay, and that basically makes up the mixed conditional. So the mixed conditional is comprised of this formula right here. Okay, let's go ahead and look at some examples, and then afterwards we'll look at some of the modal verbs, such as, I think I've written them here. The modal verbs are, and we've learned these, can, could, may, might, and should. Now you remember that with modal verbs we do not change them according to the pronoun. So oftentimes when we have a verb like, I don't know, the verb, how about talk? Okay, when we have the verb to talk, okay, and then you have pronouns like I, you, he, she, okay, and then we, and then they. Okay, when you have these, we have to conjugate the verb. Okay, so I talk, just normal. You talk. Okay, but then we get to he, she, and it becomes he, she, it talks. So we have to have an S right here, okay? Talks. We talk and they talk. And that's about it for a regular verb like this. However, these are modal verbs, meaning that they do not change. It's I can, you can, he, she can, we can, they can, and could. I could, you could, he, she could, we could, they could, and so on. Okay, so talk, like other verbs, they change. Modal verbs do not change, guys. Okay, so just remember that. Don't forget. So let's go ahead and look at, here we're going to look at what meaning they have in our example sentences over here. But let's go ahead and start right here, okay? If you had told me the correct time of the meeting, I wouldn't be late. If you had told me the correct time of the meeting, I wouldn't be late. So think about it. If you had told me the correct time, remember I said, what if something happened in the past, but it didn't happen? Well, in this case, we're explaining exactly that. Okay, we're talking about what if, okay, somebody had told you in the past, but they didn't tell you, what would be the result today? Okay, in this case, I wouldn't be late, so this person is late. Now, what would the result be? Do you know? Well, the result would be that you wouldn't be late, actually. Okay, so we're talking about something that happened in the past, but actually didn't, okay, in a mixed conditional, and what the result would be today. Okay, so the result would be that you wouldn't be late. Okay, but in this case you are. All right, so as you can see, we're talking about how if something would have happened in the past, the current situation wouldn't have resulted as it did in the present day. And we'll see the same thing right here as well. So you ready? I wouldn't be locked out of the house if I had not forgotten my keys at work. Okay, I wouldn't be locked out of the house if I had not forgotten my keys at work. Locked out means that the door to your house or to your car or wherever is locked. It cannot open. Okay? So, I wouldn't be locked out of the house. In this case, you are locked out of the house. But if something happened in the past that caused you not to be locked out of the house, then the result today would be that you would be inside the house. But what happened? You had forgotten your keys at work. That's what happened. So you forgot your keys at work, and as a result, you were locked out of the house. Okay? So let's go ahead and look at another one. If the temperature wasn't so cold, I'd have gone swimming today. Okay? If the temperature wasn't so cold, I'd have gone swimming today. Now, we're talking about a situation where the temperature is pretty cold, right? It's too cold to go swimming. But if it was different, what would the result look like? The result would be that you would go swimming, okay? But in this case, you can't go swimming because it's too cold. So again, if the temperature wasn't so cold, I'd have gone swimming today. Now, you see how we have I'd? That's basically just I would. I would have gone swimming today. Okay? And here you can see we have the verb have. And then we have the past participle of to go, which is gone, right? So, for example, I just want to clarify something. I have gone, you have gone, he has gone, she has gone, we have gone, they have gone. But if you don't want to use have, you could say I went, you went, he, she went, we went, and they went. Okay? So let's go ahead and look at a few other ones. Okay? Now, we can also use the mixed conditional for questions. Okay, so we have some questions right here. Let's go ahead and take a look. If you were a man, would have you gotten the job? So if you were a man, would have you gotten the job? Okay, so this is a question and we're trying to think of the result. The result being that you would have a job right now, but you didn't get the job in this case. Okay, was it because you're female? Was it because you are a girl that you didn't get the job? Well, in this mixed conditional sentence, we're addressing that. Okay, we're saying that if you were a man, hypothetically, like if you were born a man or a boy, would have you gotten the job? Would you have taken the job if you were a man? The employer, does he choose you based on your gender? All right, and next we have, would there be life on Earth if there had been no oxygen? Would there be life on Earth if there had been no oxygen? So, what would the result of today look like if there had been no oxygen? Would there be life? Would there be plants? Would there be trees? Would there be people? Would there be, the same animals that we have today? Okay, if there had been no oxygen. Okay, so the mixed conditional is addressing that sort of question. Okay, would there be life on Earth today if there had been no oxygen? All right, so remember the formula right here and it will be pretty easy. And you can look at our lessons on the type 0 conditional, the type 1 conditional, the type 2 conditional, the type 3 conditional, okay, and so on. Okay, and then this is the type 4 conditional that we have, which is the 5th conditional, which is called the mixed conditional. Okay, so we have the first conditional, second, third, fourth, and then we have the mixed conditional, the sort of 5th conditional that we have in the English language. Okay, and Basically, all these examples relate to the current time and call into question the present result if something would have occurred in the past. Okay? So you remember the modal verbs that we talked about earlier? Now let's go ahead and take a look at a few of them, okay, which we have covered in lessons 23 and 24. Okay, and then we're going to see how they can be used with the types of conditionals that we've learned in the past few lessons, okay? So remember, the modal verbs are can, could, may, might, should. Okay, can and could are a little similar, remember? We use could when we want to be very polite and like when we go to a restaurant. Instead of saying, can I have the menu? To be more polite to the waiter or the waitress, you could say, could I have the menu? Okay, or you can even use may. May I have the menu? Okay, so could and may are used in very polite, formal situations. Okay, and might, when we use might, there's an expression of doubt oftentimes associated with it. Okay, so you can even use might in a previous example that we had here. Okay, let's look at this one really quick. I want to show you something. If you were a man, you could say, might have you gotten the job? Okay, because remember, might expresses doubt. Okay, might expresses doubt. All right, and whenever these verbs are used in a conditional sentence, they take the place of will or would. Okay, in this example here, might is taking the place of would. Okay, might have, okay, might have, you can also say, might have, we say in English. You gotten the job, okay, so you're doubtful, it's a question. Might have you gotten the job if you were a man, right? So let's go ahead and look at these examples that we have here. I can take a trip to Portugal if I have time in the summer, okay? So we're replacing will or would with the verbs that we have down here, the modal verbs are replacing will and would. You could try to play tennis if you don't like to play team sports. Okay? If we want to learn English, we should practice every day. And you may want to find another job if you have better qualifications. Okay? Now let's go ahead and take a look at will and would. All right? So, when we look at will and would, which are kind of similar depending on the situation, we're going to be talking about also something similar to a mixed conditional. Okay? We're going to use these words here to express a willingness when making requests. Okay? So let's take a look at these examples. She would be honored if you would ask her to be a bridesmaid at your wedding. A bridesmaid is the girl who is maybe usually a best friend or a sister to the woman who is getting married. Okay, that is the bridesmaid. She is basically the number one person next to the bride. Okay, the bride is the woman getting married and the groom is the man getting married. So we say bride and groom. Okay, bride and groom at a marriage. She would be honored, she would feel happy, she would feel proud. You know, she would be honored. Wow, thank you so much. That is really nice of you for asking me to be a bridesmaid at your wedding. Thank you. I feel honored. Okay? So, let's look at the next one. He'll be so happy if you'll call him right now. Okay, we're talking about a possibility of somebody getting happy if you make a phone call to a person. So he'll be so happy, he will be so happy if you'll call him right now, right? If you would give him a call, right? If you will do that, he will be so happy. That's the result. He will be so happy. Okay? So now let's go ahead and talk about this one. So sometimes in English we use the word should to express possibilities, and you can see that should is also a modal verb. And the use of should roughly gives the meaning of if perhaps or by any chance when used in English, okay? So should is like if perhaps you or by any chance can you . okay? Should, right? So let's look at these examples. I would be surprised if he should succeed in passing the exam. Okay, I would be surprised. So in this scenario, you would be, wow, oh my gosh, he passed the exam. You would be surprised. If he should, okay, by any chance, you don't know if he would or not, because when we have should here, it kind of gives the idea that this person is not smart. Okay, he's not smart enough to pass the exam. So we say should. I would be surprised if he should succeed in passing the test, okay, or the exam, we say, test, exam. They would need financial help if the economy should nosedive. So we're talking about how somebody would need help financially with money if the economy should nosedive. If any case, in any case, if perhaps the economy nosedives. This is your nose. This is dive. You dive into a pool, you dive into water, okay? Nosedive is a verb and it means to make a downward motion, okay? Or to, trend negatively, like the stock market, okay? To trend negatively, a downward motion. So basically, we're saying that if the economy gets bad, then they would need financial help. And finally, guys, let's look at the word unless, okay? So unless translates to, well, unless is kind of like saying if not in English. So if not, right? So that's kind of like unless. You'll understand soon. Watch. You won't be able to play with your friends unless you do the house chores. Okay, it's a condition. The condition is that you must do the house chores. If you do not do the house chores, guys, you won't be able to play with your friends. Okay? Now remember, when we have won't be able to, it's saying you will not be able to. You won't be able to. You will not be able to. Will. You will not. Similar to here. You will not be able to play with your friends unless you do the house chores. And finally, I won't be able to turn in my assignment unless I find out where it is first. So you lost your assignment, you don't know where your homework is, and you won't be able to turn it in, to give it to the teacher, to hand it in, to turn it in, to give it to the teacher, to give it to somebody in authority. Okay, to turn in. My assignment, okay, which is your homework, my homework, unless on the condition that I find out, I discover where it is first. Okay, where is the assignment? I don't know, but I won't be able to turn it in unless I find out where it is. Okay? All right, guys, so that just about sums it up for this lesson. This was the last lesson about conditionals, so I hope learning about them wasn't too hard for you. Please help the channel by hitting like and subscribe. And in any case, thank you so much for watching, and I'll definitely see you next time. Bye.